Do you have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending these assets? Have you penetration tested these public assets? Start 2017 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Gain control of cyber risk with Tenable.io, the first vulnerability management platform built for today's elastic assets like cloud, containers, and web apps. Discover a fresh, asset-based approach that prioritizes vulnerabilities while seamlessly integrating into your environment. And improve ROI with the first elastic licensing approach based on assets, not IP addresses. Tenable.io delivers the data and context you need to secure your elastic attack surface. Start your free Tenable.io trial today by visiting Tenable.io. Welcome back, everyone, to Startup Security Weekly. A couple quick announcements before we dig into this segment. Wild West Hackin' Fest is happening on October 27th and 28th, put on by Black Hills Information Security. You can go there and get hands-on hardware hacking exercises, as well as famous infosecers giving talks like Dave Kennedy, Deviant, Egypt, Chris Nickerson, Chris Gates, Mike Poor, Sub-T, and more will be there. This is the last announcement for not just AnyCon, but it in fact is AnyCon, the first hacker conference of its kind in Albany, New York, happening next Friday and Saturday, the 16th and the 17th, in the brand new Albany Convention Center. Capture the Flag hardware hacking ping pong tournament. Dave Kennedy will be keynoting that one. He's just at like every conference, apparently. Doug White will be there giving out Security Weekly t-shirts, hacker movie themed glassware, hacker movie trivia, and select people may get a Security Weekly challenge coin. Anycon.info/tickets. The discount code Paul gets you 25% off. Don't forget about B-Sides in Uganda. I don't know if Dave Kennedy would be keynoting that one. It'd be interesting if he did, because he does a lot of that. October 14th through the 15th, the CFP is open until July 15th. They're looking for talks on network and web application security, innovative attack and defense strategies, and how to build or secure a robot. And bonus, if you bring a robot, visit bsideskampala.com to submit your talk today. So what's going on in the startup world, Michael?
Lots of movement this week, some big, some small. We always talk about seed rounds now, where they should be. There's a company called Crypt.co with a K, so it's cool. They got a $1.2 million seed round.
It's pretty good.
And it's to simplify developer encryption key security. So now, just to be fair, I understand encryption. But like when I look at like the problem you're trying to solve, this one is kind of interesting to me. But I know you're closer to development than me. So what they've said is the problem. And by the way, TechCrunch did a great job of laying this out. Their website does not. But it says, look, if you're trying to use SSH secure shell, we would typically tell people, use a key, use a public-private key pair, and a lot of people say, cool, well, I leave that on my laptop, right? So it's like you set it up, you leave it there, everything's good. And they say, well, that's not good enough. So although I have not looked into the specifics of how this works, what they said is, no, use your smartphone. And when you have your smartphone with you, then you can use that for the key, and that's better. So here's my question to you. How big a problem is that?
Well, on the surface, I don't like it because the private key, it says right on their website, the private key is stored on your phone. Like, I take some comfort knowing that my private SSH key, which gives me access to like God mode with some other steps to all of my systems, is not stored on my phone, which is something I can lose. And my phone runs Android, so my security comfort level of my phone already is not that high. And I tend to do a lot of, I encrypt my phone, two-factor authentication. Even given all of that, your phone is not the most secure platform and would not be my choice to extend out to be able to do SSH key management, which I agree is an issue, especially when you're a developer, especially if you're a DevOps developer today, that you could have hundreds of containers that you're accessing. Certainly, it's an issue. On the surface, I'm not a huge fan of the solution.
Yeah, so I looked at their website, and the website's interesting. What's kind of interesting to me too is that when I look at the website, first of all, and again, right, I'm not a developer, but I understand crypto. I don't understand the problem they're trying to solve, and this is something we've already brought it up. I'm just going to say it again because we're going to start looking at this more. The way you differentiate yourself, the way you make things work, the way all this type of stuff happens, is if you can sell the problem. You got to sell me that there's a problem, and I got to buy into that problem. And what I see people in security do consistently, in security startups in specific, is they presume everybody understands the problem. So if I just go, your SSH private key.
I understand. I understand the problem. I can explain it. I can explain it for them. The problem is, so you're a developer. I'll use the containers as an example. I've got 100 containers that I need to access, right? I have an SSH key that gives me access to those containers, right? Now, when I'm working, I might have a desktop, I might have a laptop, I might have a Chromebook, and my private key has to exist on all of those devices in order for me to access those systems. So what I believe they're doing is simplifying that and saying, well, it lives on your phone because my phone's always with me. I always have my SSH key, and it's independent of all those systems I'm accessing. It'll be interesting if it can extend out into, like I'm on one system and I want to jump to another system, how my key gets shared to those other systems as well. I'm not sure if it extends out to that. In other words, I've got two servers. Yeah, I've got two servers that need to talk to each other. It is a problem. It's a big problem, especially for developers and systems administrators managing multiple systems. Even the small number that we manage here, like I have this problem. I don't think, hey, let's put my SSH key on my phone.
Well, so what I think is interesting, and maybe we'll go back and talk to Frank about it, but this came out of Rough Draft Ventures. General Catalyst was part of it, but I saw some other names in here that I thought were kind of interesting too. So it's a $1.2 million seed round. Now what I wish I could have some better background on this, because we look at that for a seed round. That's big for a seed round. Number one. Number two, they're giving the product away for free, and it says, we're giving away for free, and in the future we envision being able to offer services on top of it. That's not a very East Coast model of investment. So it's interesting to me, but Rough Draft and General Catalyst had participation from Akamai Labs, and that's the one that stood out at me. And I went, oh, that's interesting. Now, they're former MIT students, and they're crypto folks. Like, this is their thing. So I'm almost wondering if there's more here to this than what we kind of saw in it. But I look at this, and for me, understanding this, I looked at it with the problem, and I went, okay, I kind of get it, but is that really a problem? The problem wasn't elevated. At least, and again, I might not be the right person, but the problem not elevated. Didn't really talk about the consequences in a way for me to look at it and go, whoa, I want that. Now, admittedly, it's free, and they're students, and they're trying to get it all figured out. But I wanted to point it out because I thought it was interesting, because I think we're going to see more on crypto coming out more and more. And this was just kind of pushed in that particular direction. All this week, we've heard about Netskope.
And I haven't really dug into it either. I've just been seeing the headlines over and over and over again.
It is out there a lot. The other one too that I mentioned before the program, Hexadite. Microsoft confirmed the acquisition of Hexadite, and the only thing of note of that is they did not confirm the purchase price, which was largely rumored to be about $100 million. But they did say we're going to incorporate them into the company right away. So it wasn't we're going to acquire, we're going to acquire them and they're going to operate over in the corner by themselves. It was like, we acquired them, they're coming in, and I think that, as you pointed out, that's going to signal a new trend. So it's not terribly surprising. All right, so Netskope, they specialize in protecting data and web-based storage and software. So are they a CASB? Is that?
It looks like from their website they are focused on cloud, putting them in the CASB space, although on their website I really can't figure out exactly what they do. And their website's kind of slow, too.
It's because they've been in the news all week.
Everyone's going to their website trying to figure out what they do.
Pounding on it. It's what I'm starting to notice is that we're coming across a bunch of these folks that are good. By the way, if you search for them on Google, it says they're the highest ranked CASB. So let's go to their website real quick, because this is so they have now taken in 230, a little over 230 million in funding since 2012. So 5 years, 231 million. I do think it's interesting because we've talked about this for a while. Like, you've kind of got the two ends of the spectrum in the security space right now. We've got a lot of small bets, safe investments, and then you get some of these big swing. I mean, this is a Series E, $100 million. This is not small. So apparently, they're the leader in cloud security. Please stop saying that, everybody. There's no leader.
Well, so is Illumio, which is our next one.
Yeah, right. They're all leaders. I mean, the only leader is us. We are the leading podcast that takes a look at security startups.
That's right. I think because we might be the only one.
No, it doesn't. It's because you can't copy us. Once you got it, you got it. Like I take a look at it again, so it gives me that leadership stuff up front. That's great. I don't really get it with the hero image. Security needs to evolve. People don't work the way they used to. Like, it's not really selling me the problem. So I think that's kind of interesting again, because like I said, and I've started doing this more now too when I take briefings. I always say what I'd love at the top, give me 5 minutes, the problem you solve, the value you create, the impact of your solution. I don't have a good success rate of people answering those types of questions. But so that's Netskope. They a lot of money for them. Good job. Another one in the news, Illumio Series D, 125 million. They do segmented security. So here's another one, $1 billion valuation, which I guess now makes them a unicorn. I hope we can stop talking about unicorns at some point. Data center, cloud security, monitoring, protecting enterprises. So here's the thing, folks. If you're using either of these, if you're a Netskope user, you're a Illumio user, send me a note. Send us a note. We're both fairly easy to find, or you come to the show notes. Our contact info is all there. I'd actually like to know what problem you were asking them to solve and how they did relative to it, or how that worked or how it fit.
With Illumio, I've got a little better understanding now that when you do a DevOps deployment today, the term is microsegmentation, right? But essentially what it means is you're taking all of the functions within your application and you're segmenting them out into separate processes, right? And there's lots of ways that, two things, ways that you can harden that and segment them off. And there's lots of ways in which all of those microservices or containers can communicate. And there's a lot of different ways to kind of slice that pie. And, one big thing is how many microservices do you have? Do you put everything, in its own little container, or do you, have larger ones? And then how do they talk? How do they share resources? And it can see in a large enterprise deployment like that you're going to have some difficulties with security. Now, my concern is it's nice that I can do more segmentation. It creates, on the flip side, a lot of complexity and potential security threats that I think have largely gone kind of unnoticed, and no one's paying attention to it. And so there are vendors that can help you manage that problem, which is a good thing. However, some of the underlying architecture has some security issues. I'm not sure. So that's kind of it is a problem for, I think, a lot of the DevOps style companies, which are more and more becoming the software companies, right? I mean, that's where everything's going.
Well, now this is from the TechCrunch article, and this is a great quote. I think it's a great quote. I'm curious if you agree. So this is the co-founder and the CEO, Ruben, and this is a quote from him. Quote, "Think of your network as a submarine. If the submarine springs a leak, you want to avoid the whole thing sinking. This is what we do for our customers. If something does go wrong, we reduce the impact." I like that. Does that match?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the other, kind of pro to doing what they term as microsegmentation.
No, I like it. That actually made sense. I was. It is,
and it is one of the benefits too, right? Is you're putting everything in its own little world. It actually, like Doug White was telling me, it's kind of just like you had on a mainframe, basically.
Isn't it funny how we're going right back to that?
Right back to that. And it is, because it's more, first of all, it's more resilient. And the other piece that he could have even added on to that is in terms of updating, right, for security and to push your product forward, I can just update a portion of my infrastructure, a portion of that application, and not affect the other components, which is a real plus.
Now that I'm reading and looking at this more, it doesn't apply to Illumio, but this is what's kind of popping in my head. When you're a startup, there is no shame in playing for an acquisition.
Yep.
And so you've got to decide at some point, am I a feature and I'll be part of something bigger, or am I the platform and other things will be part of what we do? And like I'll use, so like CASB is interesting. We'll see where that goes. Microsegmentation is interesting because what I did notice is now VMware, Cisco are getting into it. And it's interesting here. So again, here's another quote from this. So this is from, all right, so I'll read it. I continue to be inspired by Illumio's vision for transforming the cybersecurity market. Okay, just to be clear, I didn't get any of that out of this. But who said it? John Thompson, an Illumio board member who happens to also be chairman of Microsoft. Oh, that's interesting, because didn't we just see Microsoft buy Hexadite? So if Microsoft's going to start paying attention to all these types of things now, and they're pushing into, so I think it's interesting. And you're right, segmentation, microsegmentation. I mean, we've been hearing about that for years. And as Doug wisely points out, because he's older than us, it's not new.
Right.
It's not new. It's just new again. So anyway, so that's Illumio. They've got that. Yubikey, $30 million investment.
That's awesome. Good for them.
Yeah. I don't know a lot. It's funny. There's not a lot of detail on them. But I know that in our community, they're mentioned a lot. And people are kind of digging it. And by the way, then I have to ask, since I don't actually, for whatever reasons, own one, maybe I should say yet, but I'm pretty sure you do, or I certainly know other people in our family on Security Weekly do.
I do. I own 3.
Can you use it for your secure shell stuff?
Yeah, so you can, except you have to, in my research, and if our listeners have figured this out or figured out a better way or have more insight into this, I researched that briefly because having that SSH problem, it doesn't solve the management problem, but it does apply a multi-factor to your SSH logins, which I deemed as important, and I liked that aspect of it. However, when I researched it, you had to configure SSH to use PGP or GPG as the key mechanism, and then you could use a Yubikey as your second factor. And that was just way more than I wanted to get into in order to do it. So I do use Yubikey for Facebook because it supports 2-factor. LastPass supports 2-factor with Yubikey, and Google uses 2-factor as well. So I do have a few tokens floating around that are authorized to those accounts that I keep tabs on. I probably have like one too many of the tokens, but as I think it was Dom Pizzette from IT Pro TV, he's like, oh, you just plug one into every laptop, right? And then you're all set. And while that does diminish the security physically, like if someone steals my laptop and my key is in the same bag or attached to it, that does diminish it. However, you can revoke those keys, and you really should just have one key that's on you. Of course, the danger with that is if you lose that key. So really, you need like 2, which could be part of their $30 million investment, right? Because those that are
it said they're developing new products.
Yeah, but you, as a consumer, you're going to want 2 at least, bare minimum, and you're going to want to authenticate both of those to all of your accounts. You want to take one, put it in like a safe place in your house, in the safe or whatever, and then you keep one on you, just in case you lose one. So,
yeah, it's interesting times. All right, last one for this week, and I put it in here for a couple of reasons. There's a company called CybelAngel, and they took in 3 million euros, which so it's like it's listed as about 3.5 million. With the way we take a look at it. I don't mean to be so rude and diminish them because I'm about to, so I guess I mean to. But what I thought was interesting in the article, and then you go to their website, is it says, we're going to specifically focus on development in the U.S., where the company says its unique value proposition has been confirmed by key institutions. And I just kind of looked at it and I went, okay, cool. What's your unique value proposition? And it's not there. And I just want to point out, when you get funding, that's impressive. And on this program, we will always celebrate that, and we'll elevate that performance. The fact that you had a value proposition that got you funding doesn't necessarily mean that the marketplace has validated your value proposition. Because if you think about the way that this works, and we've had a lot of the investors really clarify this, at least in my conversations off mic, where they said, look, we're willing to take 4, 5, 6, 8 conversations, however many it takes, until we think we understand it. But I've gone back to some of them with the investments that they've made, closer to the 3 million range, not the 100 million. I said, cool. So what's their value prop? And you get that look, and they go, well, I go, okay, so something in it sounded good. You liked it. You liked the team. You saw a plan in there. Right? You saw value, and you're excited about that, but you can't articulate it to me. And they go, yeah, right. And what I'm finding then is that some of the founders then will say, well, I got funding, so we must be good, because that means we've got a value prop. Well, the value prop that you make to an investor might be different than the value prop that you make to the marketplace, number one. And number two, an investor who's looking at cybersecurity, who might be either a little savvy or less savvy, is willing to take a number of rounds to try to figure it out, especially if somebody that they like puts it in their ear, they should talk to you. We don't see the same type of thing happening in the marketplace today because people are swamped. They're really overrun. So what I want to start trying to do with folks that we work with is really trying to take a look at some of those value propositions, not to denigrate, not to tear people down, but if you've got a good value prop, I want to elevate that, and I want to start then kind of like we did a little bit today. Let's see if we can put some points around the problem that we think that they're trying to solve, so we can elevate that, because I think that's how we'll help this industry do stuff better. So, I hope that they do well. If you look at their Owler profile, they're fairly new. They're French-based, so we don't tend to see a lot of cybersecurity innovation coming out of France. Not that it's not there. Right. All I'm saying is we don't tend to see a lot of it. But they're a cybersecurity company that engages big data algorithms to detect real-time data leaks and threats on the dark web and IoT ecosystems. Okay. Cool. So they got funded. Congratulations. And if you got insight into them, let us know what you think. And, happy to chat with them and figure it out. But, I want to make sure that we're doing a job taking a look at some of this stuff a little bit better and trying to help people discern it a little bit better as it goes. So how's your journey going, my friend?
It's going good. I'm realizing as I work on my side project, and one of the reasons I'm working on my side project for, containers and Docker and stuff is to see how software development is done today by many companies, of course, adopting those models. And I'm realizing that it changes your software development lifecycle in a big way. And I'm really trying to get a handle on that so I can better understand our own processes, make suggestions for improvement, and make sure that process is running, efficiently. Because obviously, if you don't have that internal process to create software, to push new builds, and work in this new environment, which changes existing philosophies on software development, you're not going to be able to be effective in the market. So that's kind of where I'm at, a little kind of research mode so far.
That's good. I'm in the get it done mode. Like I had like some angst over the weekend, like, all right, I'm done. Let's go push. And I pushed through a couple of the mental roadblocks I had, and then really got into some good conversations this week, and started to realize that it was time, take my own advice, narrow the target profile down a little bit, start to validate that. I'm going back now, recalibrating that. So I'm actually going to be focusing on early stage security startups. It turns out one of the things that I love about our program, and one of the things that I love about security right now, is innovation and really starting to solve problems. I found that, like, when I take briefing pitches, if you want to pitch me that you're doing the same thing as everybody else, but maybe you're doing it better, if you got a good personality, I'll chat with you. But if you want to tell me you're going to go change the way fundamentally we're solving security problems, and what always catches my attention then is you're engaging the business, you're freeing stuff up, you're making leaps. Oh man, I get fired up. And I've gone back and I've looked at it. Those are my favorite clients. Like I get excited and inspired and want to be part of that. So it's been good for me, and I'm amazed because we resist it. We naturally resist it when somebody says focus, pick one thing and focus and get narrow with it. And I've resisted it for a long time myself. And now that I've given in, and it's like, what do you do? I help you translate value, right? Straight talk starts the value proposition. Mm-hmm. And you go have that conversation with people. It's like, wow. Now, here's the other thing I've been really figuring out. It's helping people understand the problem. The problem that I solve is that we have friction. And the biggest case of friction is translation friction. It's hard because we come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different approaches, different ideas, sometimes to share that with somebody else so that they understand it. And so a lot of things cascade off of that. And I've been spending time over the last couple of weeks figuring out how to visualize that and show people. And I'm kind of digging the conversations that come off of that. And so I've been working on what they call the from to journey. So, from friction to straight talk, from slowing down to accelerating, from getting stuck to unlocking value. And then each of those, Paul, has so much depth to it that it's kind of like if we talk about like a customer journey, I'm almost just looking at like, what's your journey to value? And starting to talk with people about that interactively. And it's been two things at the same time, mind blowing. And then kind of like stalling because you're like, well, crap, where do I focus first? Right. So this week was a good week to kind of come back and go, okay, stop. We go here. And the big thing I've learned is what problem are you trying to solve? We collectively as an industry need to do better about that. So I think you're going to hear that as a theme for me for the foreseeable future to help more people really pinpoint that. That's how we're going to make a difference in security today. So I'm excited. It's been a good week, and I think things are going really well. It's a fun journey. I wouldn't trade it.
Well, thank you, everyone, for listening and watching Startup Security Weekly. That concludes this episode. We'll see everyone next time.